What is the most fricked up crap you've seen at a party? Once, I walked out of the bathroom at a party. To my right, outside the glass screen door, I see a girl who looks like she has just thrown up and is now sitting and crying in a ball. I then look to my left and I see that on the couch is her boyfriend getting a hand job from one of our gay friends. Unexpected ending. A friend of mine used to bite the tops off of beer cans as a party trick. One night he got so drunk he placed it wrong and ripped out his entire tooth root and all. There was blood everywhere, but he didn't feel anything until the next day. Christmas family gathering, 2009. Walked into the supposedly empty downstairs living room in my great-grandmother's house in search of my sweater. I found my two cousins having quiet sex. It was dark. I didn't turn the light on, as I had seen my sweater from the open door. I walked into the room, not turning my head in their direction, grabbed my sweater, and walked out. They came upstairs again at dinner time. To this day, they probably think that I didn't notice. I guess if you can't keep it in your pants, keep it in the family. A half blacked out guy getting furiously jacked off by a naked girl in the kitchen, using what looked like shampoo as lube. The dude was covered in Cocoa Puffs. There were suds everywhere. Dang, that's gonna burn. Everyone knows you gotta use conditioner. 3 freshman girls went into our one bathroom crying. They came out after they all shaved their heads with my roommate's pube trimmers. It was certainly crazier than usual. Feeling cancer is involved in here somewhere. I once was at a party that broke down into a stealing frenzy. The host must have passed out or something. Favorite moment. Some guy raids the host's freezer and pulls out a full frozen chicken. Runs out the door into the rain. 5 seconds later runs back into the house only to steal an umbrella before leaving again. I went to a party and the same thing happened. He'll never forget one kid who snapped up a life-size Shaq cardboard cutout and walked out of a raging house party and down the street like it was no big deal. The host's parents' wedding rings got stolen, along with their entire CD collection and dozens of other items. Very drunk girl takes her shirt off and starts showing everyone her boobs even though she was just drunkenly ranting about her boyfriend who is in the army. Her friends then take her and put her in a room in hopes that she won't embarrass herself anymore. She came back down an hour later with no pants on and began finger blasting herself on the kitchen floor. I found out later that she didn't even have a boyfriend, so it's just a mess of confusing. The party was being held at a house with 3 levels. On each level of the house there was a deck where you could see the other level's deck straight up or down. There is a big guy minding his own business sitting on a couch on the first deck. A guy on the 3rd floor deck was balancing or something and falls over the railing and lands directly on top of the big guy minding his own business. Bruises, but no serious injuries. Not sure if this was before or after this incident, but the big guy minding his own business had a cinder block thrown at his head by some pee-off co-worker. Big guy stopped for a second, touches his head, looks at blood on his hand, and proceeds to run after the guy and beat the bejesus out of him. He may be indestructible. Girl passed out in a mini dress who crap herself. The dress had ridden up so all you saw was a bare butt crack filled with the unspeakable. I was at a party one night where everyone was drinking heavily and this one guy passed out in the basement. We kinda just left him there, but he eventually peed himself, which made the basement smell like pee and fricked up the carpet. The party host was pee as heck, so he and some other people decided to drag the passed out guy outside. This was a walk-in basement. Next to the wall all the other drunk guys were using to pee on when they didn't want to go into the bathroom. Fast forward a few hours and most of the people forgot about the passed out guy next to the pee wall. A group of extremely drunk guys go outside and begin urinating. At this point one of them notices the passed out guy from earlier is still passed out there on the ground. So midstream he decided it would be funny to spray the drunk guy with a bit of his pee. The other drunk guys see this and also think it would be hilarious to pee on the passed out guy. So I'm sitting across the yard and I see 6 guys all pee on this passed out guy. And it wasn't just a little tinkle, it was 6 full streams spraying all over the passed out guy's body. His mouth was open and everything. Got in his hair, eyes, all over his clothes, etc. Then another one of the drunk guys decided to take a crap right next to him. As he was being pee on, the passed out drunk guy was kinda coming back into consciousness and smiling, rubbing the pee off his face. It was literally the most fricked up thing I've ever seen at a party. TL. DR, watch the passed out guy get a 6-man golden shower and a steamy chocolate dessert. Edit. I just realized per the title of the thread this was also the most fricked up crap I've ever seen at a party. Dude was living the life. I usually have to pay about $300 for one guy, never mind 6. Back when I was pretty young, like 14, me and a group of friends went to this party at the house of some guy a few years older than us. Of course it was his parents' house, but the party was held in this huge undeveloped basement. It was just one big space with no walls. Anyway, we felt equally cool and out of place for being around all these older kids, so we were just laying low, drinking our cheap liquor. It was the kind of party where you could tell not a lot of people knew each other and there were groups from every imaginable clique at the time. That is, grunge kids, hip hoppers. It was the 90s. At some point the lights turn off. We hear some breaking glass and the lights come right back on to reveal some screaming girl who had just been smashed with a bottle. Before you know it, lights go off again, more smashing and another bottle has been thrown. This happened like 6 or 7 times in a row, and it didn't take long before the 50 or 60 kids in this basement are stampeding in horror. Every time the lights go on, a new person has blood running down their face and more kids are running around in blood-soaked socks as their feet get cut up on the glass that's being smeared around the floor. The reason it took everyone so long to figure out what was happening is that no one was standing near the light switch at the bottom of the stairs. Eventually, after enough bottles had been thrown, someone finally found out what was going on. Some goth kids had set themselves up in a small furnace hot water heater room that was built into the far corner of the basement. This room also contained the electrical breaker, so they had figured out which breaker controlled the lights, and for whatever reason, they decided to frick some people up just for a laugh. They would kill the lights and then pop out and whip a bottle into the crowd and duck back in, so it wasn't apparent to everyone else who was throwing bottles. As we were leaving there was all kinds of yelling and screaming in that room as a bunch of guys confronted them in there and probably beat the crap out of them. All I know is, us 14-year-olds felt like we had entered a whole new world outside of the one we had known up to that point in our lives. Holy crap, those kids throwing bottles into the crowd are buttholes. I think the most fricked up thing was the resident naked guy. Nathan would be drinking his beer, chilling on the couch, and only in his boots. It wasn't even anything sexual. He was just really comfortable with nudity. Canadian punks in winter have no fear of shrinkage. Friend of mine had a roommate who'd do that when he wanted people to get out of his house. 2 AM rolled around and all of a sudden he'd just start wandering around naked. It was pretty effective. Saw a girl lose a glow stick in her butthole. Watched a different girl blow bang 8 guys for some ecstasy and coke. Walked in on a dude getting a blumpkin from another guy. Seen multiple people passed out in pools of pee vomit crap. The late 90s early 00 rave scene was crazy. Edit. I remembered one more this morning. A naked girl standing next to the DJ pulled her bloody tampon out and swung it above her head like a helicopter. DJ threw down his headphones and noped the frick out of there. Her friends had to try and restrain her while trying to not take a bloody tampon to the face. Went to a party with a few buddies. One of my friends has a tendency to think he is a huge heavyweight, and he's not even a little bit. Around 12:30 he's completely crap-hosed, and while at this house party we were at, he starts freaking out. Why, you ask? Because he forgot to mow the lawn after his dad told him to. We try to calm him down, and he disappears. About 5 minutes later we hear a bunch of racket coming from the backyard, go outside to investigate, and my friend, drunk off his butt, is starting a lawnmower and trying to mow the lawn at some random's house at 1 AM. That's some discipline right there. After reading a bunch of these, this is quite mellow, but I saw a very drunk girl down a cup half full of dip spit when she was wasted, did not even bat an eye, and stumbled away as if she had just chugged a beer. Edit. For all those asking, dip spit is when you put dip, or smokeless tobacco, Skoal is a popular brand, in your mouth and then spit into a cup or bottle for a period of time. The resulting cup of spit is called dip spit. I threw up a little in my mouth reading that. Thank you, internet stranger. I'm gonna go brush my teeth. Carried a drunk friend on his 18th to his bed. His mum started to pull his pants off cause they had spew on them and he yelled, Suck me beautiful. A very drunk girl went around pretending she was about to make out with various guys, but instead she would lean in and at the last minute take a bite of their faces, then giggle and run away. She would do it hard. Multiple guys had deep bite marks and one was bleeding. That's weird. A guy with a swastika tattoo on his face was coked up out of his mind. Haymakers his friend's girlfriend and begins to beat her up. Party thrower grabs his katana sword out of the trunk of his car and hits the abuser in the back of the knees while shirtless and in negative-degree weather. Fight over. Edit. Just to clear things up. Yes, it was with a sword. Yes, with blade. No legs were chopped off. And the tattoo had been covered by band-aid that came off during the fight. It was a Halloween party. A girl dressed in her 80s prom dress dry humping a shirtless guy in leather pants. She ends up barfing in his face, into his wide open mouth. I unfortunately watched the whole thing happen. A mother-daughter team, if you could call it that. Every weekend I used to party with some of the guys at a welding shop I worked at. I was the only female welder there, so they'd invite me to parties all the time. I kept it platonic so it wasn't weird at work. One weekend one of my better friends walks out of his room with a fairly decent chick. They'd obviously just had sex. The girl starts waving at me, signaling me to come into the room to join. I wasn't into it. As I turned around I realized she was waving at the much older lady behind me. It was a weird. Later that night I talked to the mother and she said her and her daughter always did this, and they had more of a friendship instead of a parental relationship. The Gilmore Girls always did have a thing for welders. Edit. I have no idea what this is a reference to. I've never seen the show. This one guy on the college football team was like face down butt up to this random girl. She immediately said yes and she fricked him face down butt up in the middle of a large crowd of people. Your wording is ambiguous with regards to who was butt up face down. Please don't fix it. This probably isn't what you were looking for, but man, I went to this birthday party in 3rd grade. The kids' parents organized these games that we would all play. We had all sorts of stations, like soccer, basketball, football toss through a tire, etc. Before we started, they said that the birthday boy needed to change into his costume. Okay, well, while the kid went inside with his dad, the mom told the rest of us to make sure we let him win at all the games since it was his birthday. Okay, lady, like we're going to let that happen. I mean, we tried at first, but we're competitive little kids. We tried to let him score the most points, whatever, but then came the football toss. We each got 10 throws. Whoever gets the most through wins. Since he was the birthday boy, he got to choose when to throw and he chose to go last. Okay, well, we start throwing the ball through the tire and at this point, we weren't thinking we had to let him win since it wasn't everyone going at once. Some guy ended up throwing it through the tire 9 times out of 10. Peyton Manning here. Then birthday boy goes up. He missed his first 2 so he was mathematically eliminated. I guess he didn't realize it, but his parents told him that those were just warm up. He finally makes 1 so they restart the counter. But the guy can't throw well. They tell him he can move up. But at this point we were counting for him like future auditors and the final tally was 4. He made 4 out of 10. He knew he didn't win. He pouted. He screamed at the kid who won. But really, all of us beat his score except so why he chose to yell at Peyton Manning, I don't know. He kicked him and then ran into the house. Then his parents called Peyton Manning's parents and told them to pick him up even though the party was scheduled to go on for 1 more hour. Conversely, I wasn't allowed to win any of the games at my own party. I remember one year we were playing the game where everyone has a balloon tied to their ankle and you need to be the last person not to have it popped. And my dad came in and popped my balloon once I'd made it to the final 4. Still hurts. Sadly the story is secondhand. But last year at a New Year's party after things started to die down a little there's 6 people left awake. They went to go chill in someone's room so they didn't bother all the passed out drunks. The guy's room whom it was wanted to go to bed and was trying to get the others out but they just wouldn't leave. So they kept casually talking and about 15 minutes later one of the girls just pulls her skirt up. Guy pulls his pants down and the girl just hops up on that dong in the middle of talking. They continue to have sex while participating in the conversation. The girl even makes a comment about how she is trying to keep quiet so it doesn't get awkward, as if it wasn't already awkward. Easily the weirdest crap that's gone down at a party I was at that I know of, and a kid woke up with a brand on his butt the next day. Man, I was at a wedding in Mexico and I walk into the bathroom to see two guys at the only two urinals, only to watch a third player enter and begin pee in player 2's urinal. Dude turns around and accidentally pisses on third player. First player bewildered and realized everyone is peeing on each of the pukes. All three men are peeing and puking on each other. They clean up and bit laugh and go right back outside and hit on girls. My cousin knocks on the door at 10 PM and asks me if I wanna take him to her party. Sure, why not? Turns out he needs my pickup to get the 2 pony kegs. We stop at a liquor store and buy about $200 worth of hard alcohol as well. It's a big house on a hill on a small farm. No neighbors for about a mile. Get there and it's wild and loud and crazy. People throwing lawn furniture into the pool. People dancing naked. It turns out my cousin is running the entire party. 100 people easy, and all of them meeting and greeting my cousin like he's a king. After a bit, I see him open the fridge, open the butter container and pour half a glass of vodka in it. By now we are pretty drunk and I realize I don't know who lives at this house. So where's the owner? Dunno. Why are we partying here? Guy owes me money. A pregnant girl with a blunt in one hand and a bottle in the other, while twerking. That's when I decided it was time to leave. Time to call MTV. A drunk guy puked into his 21st birthday cake and ate it. Another drunk guy puked on the kitchen floor. Another dude slipped in the puke, realized it was puke, and puked. Edit. The first one is a separate occasion from the others. Saw a guy vomit into a mason jar. Get yelled at by the owner of the home for ruining a good mason jar. Then guy 1 decides to smash homeowner's face in with said mason jar. Crushed one orbital bone and got large hunks of glass and puke all over his bloody face. I promptly left. At a party my senior year, some dumbass threw a gas can full of gas on the huge bonfire we had. It exploded and sent a few girls to the hospital with, I believe, at least 2nd-degree burns. My friend is drunk in the kitchen and asks me if he can have a girl shave his face. I say okay and I give him the shaving cream and razor and I leave the kitchen. I come back 5 minutes later and there is shaving cream all over the dining table and he is rubbing his face on the table. Then later, he breaks my lamp while yelling I want attention. Edit. I got him the shaving supplies from my bathroom. I don't keep them in my kitchen. No kiwis were involved. At my 20th birthday party a guy puked in the jungle juice, but we didn't find out until the next day. All night everybody was drinking it and eating the fruit at the bottom. Edit. Thanks for the gold, guys. I would love to say it was worth it. Oh my freaking god. The first time I ate magic mushrooms was at this huge house party in high school. A group of us stumbled on this frog and were immediately rendered speechless by nature's beauty. Hey, a frog is really beautiful when you're tripping balls. Don't judge me, but that idyllic moment turned horrifying when some guy jumped through the crowd, screaming, and smashed the frog with his foot. That crap fricked me up. For real. Shrooming at a party sounds like a nightmare. When I was in grade 10, a girl had a train run on her by probably half the dudes at the party. She was encouraging every dude in the room to frick her. For the rest of her high school career her nickname was Garbage C. I think she regretted that night. Stories like these are why my gangbang fantasy remains fantasy. House party in 2006. Way many people there. Everyone is having a great time. Random guy who nobody invited pulls out some H and injects in the kitchen. Teenager minds blown? Countless. College party circa 2006. Living room was badass. We had set up a fog machine, strobe lights, and a sweet sound system. We worked pretty hard to make that room pretty sweet, so when I saw everybody in the kitchen and outside I asked them what the frick was up. They advised me not to go into the living room, that it was contaminated and no man's land. I was so decided to go against their advice. As I'm walking through the hallway to the living room, through the haze I see what looks like two people making out. No big deal. As I got closer I could smell musty, nasty pee and realized it was a very, very large girl on top of a very skinny guy. They weren't having sex but she was screaming and grinding the frick out of him. Our house was meant for parties and getting fricked up, so I just had a laugh and left them to it. Went outside and we joked about it. Looked through the window and caught an HD look at what was going on. The skinny guy had his entire fist in her pee, basically punching her insides, and then whoosh, she squirted what must have been a full glass of pee juice all over his chest and face. I've seen a fuckload of pee in my day but nothing will ever compare to it. Her pee freaking burst like a water balloon. A few of my buddies saw it at the exact moment I did and our faces went white. The girl emerged and left without saying a word, but the guy slowly walked to his car, freaking soaked. His hair was sodden through and shirt pants wet like he fell into a pool. Plus the pee stink was the worst I'd ever encountered. We immediately confronted him before he left, telling him how fricked up it was he did that at our place. And then he showed us his fist. His fist, the one that had been lodged up her skis, was encrusted with this white slime that was drying out in the night air. He said her pee was oozing this milky crap all down his arm. One of the guys started throwing up at the sight of it. We ended up giving the couch to grateful neighbors. Little did they know what was soaked into the left side. We never saw her again. TLDR. Fat girl gets fisted in living room. Squirts like a water park and covers friend's fist with white odoriferous slime. That may be the most disgusting thing I've read in my life. A couple killed their cat. In their words, not verbatim. They wanted to show everyone how fricked up they were. It started with the boyfriend and his girlfriend seemed to be turned on. They didn't just snap its neck but fricking slowly murdered that crap. Long story short, I freaked the frick out. Called the cops and never hung out with a single person there again. Edit. Frick, I forgot I made a throwaway. How the heck did I get all these dang points from a throwaway but my real account gets no love? I attended a college friend's wedding who had moved to Fayetteville, Arkansas. I had a great time over the extended weekend, but it was the first and only time I have ever seen a bride, in her gown, do a keg stand only for that to be followed up by the bride's grandmother. Granny made it past her 10 count. Oh, I got one for the record books. My friend used to drink way too much. Well, one Friday night started just like any other. A few beers, followed a few shots, followed by him smashing a handle of crap vodka. As the night progressed, so did his CUs. At one point during this wonderful evening, my friend decides he needs to set up a spotlight, one of those halogen auto lights you find in the garage, in the middle of his front yard. Once set up and on, he runs back in the house, strips off his clothes, grabs the vacuum cleaner from the living room and stumbles back out the door in his birthday suit. We follow him outside. He plugs the vacuum cleaner and vacuums his front yard naked. At 3 am. 3 am in a residential suburbia. A half hour later he discovers he's too cold for this and goes back inside. Another time he took the trash bag out of the trash can full of course, turned all 4 burners on the stove on and threw the bag of trash on it. Both these incidents happened at his house. TLDR. My friend was out of control. This was one of the most fricked up things I have seen at a party. I was at an 18th birthday party many years ago and it came that time of the night when speeches were to be given. Everyone gathered around on the patio area to listen to the parents talk about how proud they are of their little girl. While this was happening, I was standing at the back of the crowd trying to control one of my friends who had just polished off a bottle of vodka. Not a bad effort for a small 16-year-old kid. When it became clear that he was going to be very sick, I tried to get him to come with me away from the crowd and into the back garden so his violent sounds of his regurgitation didn't distract from the heartfelt speeches that were being given only meters away. Despite my best efforts, my friend was not to be reasoned with and unexpectedly bolted through the crowd and into the small clearing on the patio in front of the speakers. At this point the speech stopped, as all attention was on my friend who was standing in the middle of the party and was the focus of attention. There was a momentary pause as he stopped and surveyed his surroundings before he proceeded to projectile vomit all over the patio in front of the birthday girl and her parents. I, to this day, have never seen so much vomit come out of one person. It continued for several spurts, before my friend then slipped over and was lying in his own vomit which now covered the entire patio. He then began to roll around and start laughing, clearly oblivious to what he was doing and his surroundings. At this stage the birthday girl was crying and the parents were more than irate as this drunken child had just ruined their daughter's birthday. With the crowd now cheering my idiot friend's antics, the parents now set about trying to remove him from this pool of vomit and return normality to the proceedings. I will add now that both parents were morbidly obese, to the point that breathing was likely a chore for both of them. In their attempt to grab my slippery friend, both parents slipped over in the vomit. As I said, there was a ridiculous amount of it, and were not able to regain their footing. The act of getting up off the ground, which I imagine was already a struggle for these people, now proved impossible in the slippery predicament they were in. They then proceeded to wriggle and squirm for what seemed like several minutes trying to stand up. All the while my friend is laughing and rubbing his vomit on them. The crowd at this point was out of control, cheering this completely absurd behavior, all the while the birthday girl is crying in the corner. After a few minutes passed, my friend realized his luck would soon be up and got up and sprinted out of the party, leaving two very upset and embarrassed parents lying and squirming in a giant puddle of his vomit. There was a momentary pause as he stopped and surveyed his surroundings. That's what life is about. At a destroy the house party a friend in year 11 was having in his father's investment property that was being demolished for a development. Things got a little rowdy, and beyond the internal walls and doors and windows getting the treatment, the bathrooms were getting worked over, tiles being smashed with cricket bats, sinks being pulled off walls, and of course toilets being kicked in and rendered useless. This of course means only one functioning toilet in a house filled with 150 drunken frisky teenagers, which means the longest line is for the loo. So I'm trying to get into the games room with the air hockey table, plinko and skee ball machines. This was a sick party, so I can't retrieve my jacket and bag. The door is jammed. I can't get in, so I do what any drunk teenager at a destroy the house party does. I kick in the adjacent wall and try to get in that way. I get through enough of the wall to see what's going on inside, and there's a girl wedging the door closed while her friend is crapping in the skee ball machine. So I do what any reasonable young man does in that situation. I book it and tell my mates. Friend who had the party got hit with a cleaning fee. Girl who took the dump got hit with a nasty label. I got hit with a gag reflex when I played skee ball later in life. Had a Halloween party at my friend's house this year. My friend's roommate, at the time, poisoned my friend's dog with fake ice. The dog is mostly okay now, but just a little mentally unstable. The now ex-roommate got kicked out and has a court date. Edit. Fixed some ambiguous grammar. Edit 2. Fixed the science portion. Don't ask me why they add water to antifreeze. I don't use the stuff, and it sounds really freaking pointless. Edit 3. 99.999% chance it wasn't antifreeze. In any event, the schnauzer got really fricked up. I've seen a girl's friends leave her drunk on a couch at a party because no one wanted to watch her. She was super drunk and ended up blowing a very sober guy who laughed at her as he rammed his dong down her throat in front of everyone in the area. Once her friends saw, they ran over to the couch, laughing, and pulled her off of the guy. Edit. Changed passed out to drunk. She was not unconscious. She was just drunk as heck. Her friends are buttholes and someone needed to punch dude in the dong. As unlikely as this sounds, I swear it's 100% the truth. In a high school, a classmate had her end of the year graduation party and there were tons of people at his house. One particular guy was obviously doing his best to get his drunk on and decided to lay down on the floor for some reason. While laying down there, he started looking up girls' dresses as they passed by him. One girl noticed this and decided to put on a little show for him. She started dancing over his head and hiking her skirt up. He was visibly enjoying himself. Anyway, she started squatting lower and lower over his face when she peeled off her panties. The hotness factor went up by about 2000%. She continued to go lower and lower and then she crapped on his face. She stood up, picked up her panties and walked off to the bathroom. The guy puked all over the living room as he bolted for the kitchen to clean up. Tame in comparison to some of these posts, but this one stayed with me. My best buddy in HS, the only HS friend I'm still in touch with, was the lady killer back in school. There was an especially cute girl with curly blonde hair who everyone wanted to bone, and he got his chance at a party. On the way there he drank a 40 off street. Idiot saint. To you kids out there, After he had killed another 40 at the party, cute curly blonde took him to a back bedroom to bone. Shortly thereafter there's a huge scream. Some people go into the bedroom to check out. WTF happened. My friend is half naked and passed out on the floor. Girl is sobbing hysterically and locked herself in the bathroom. Bed is covered in sick. He told me later that he got her naked on the bed, was taking off his clothes and just lost it and blew at least 40 ounces of warm malt liquor and stomach acid chowder all over this poor girl's naked body. Shock, laughter, revulsion and oh frick, who's gonna clean this crap up commotion ensued. Not exactly fricked up, but two friends decided to have a drunken but friendly fist fight. Both got bloodied up a bit and then hugged it out afterward. No hard feelings at all between the two of them, but it was incredibly uncomfortable for me to watch. Why? Because it was between a guy and a girl. In high school, there was a regular party house that me and my friends would go to get drunk. One night in particular, a lot of people we only somewhat knew showed up. This one guy in particular was incredibly drunk when he arrived and proceeded to drink a crap ton more. Then he disappeared. About an hour later, I heard a scream. Myself and most of the party ran to where the scream came from to find it belonged to a horrified person who had opened a door to that guy in a spare bedroom, fingering a dog's butthole and attempting to make it with it. The most fricked up part was that he paused, looked at us, and then continued to do it. Needless to say, he was banned from any future parties at that house. TLDR. Drunk dude makes out with a dog and fingers its butthole. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.